In 2018, it was reported that 281 deaths were registered across the U.S. and Mexico border. The reason for this is due to the extreme weather conditions that many of them faced and the lack of resources they had to combat it. Border Angels as an organization has set out to help people across the border more safely. Why? They do this because they know that people are trying to cross the border either for a better life or even to get more job opportunities to provide for the family they have in Mexico. I believe that I'm credible to speak about this topic due to my own family having crossed and I'm hearing about their experiences, about their injuries, or even being caught. The main points I'll go over today is who is Border Angels and why they started to help out, how they provide logistics to both those that are crossing and to the family members waiting to hear back on something, and Border Angel members set out to help even in the desert. First, let's look into more into depth why Border Angels started. Border Angels began due to the influx of movement happening in the 1980s. In Central America, there was an influx of movement that was happening within the countries due to the rise of civil wars. In an article entitled Central America Wars 1980s, published by the United States Foreign Policy History and Resource Guide, it talks about different conflicts that were happening in Central America, including in El Salvador and Guatemala. In El Salvador, their civil war was going on, and a lot of people were being killed. And at one point in 1981, the Salvadoran army massacred 1,000 men, women, and children in the village of Mesote. And in Guatemala, their civil war had been going on since 1960s, and even 1980s, innocent civilians were being killed and being displaced from their homes by the military. And speaking with a professor, due to these events, they mentioned that it led to a mass diaspora in which everybody from the country dispersed. Some of them went to refugee camps, but in the aforementioned source, it was reported that around 1 million people came to the United States, and where they decided to flee. But even with all those people entering, a lot of people were dying across the border. So in response to that, to the large amount of people dying and entering, Border Angels began. In 1986, Enrique Morenes, the founder, established Border Angels in order to help reduce numbers. They started off in San Diego and then expanded across the U.S. and Mexico border. On their About Us section, they mentioned how they work for a nonprofit, and with the help of volunteers, they fight for human rights, human immigration reform, and social justice. Now let us investigate how Border Angels places in efforts to help families to be aware of situations both in and out of the desert. One of the things that they do is they provide information about the risks that people take. In an article entitled Globalization, Transnationalism, and Intersecting Geographies of Power, the case of the Consejo Consultivo del Instituto de los Mexicanos en el Exterior, a study in progress, the article reports that Border Angels is aware of situations that are happening, especially in certain times such as like 9/11, and how there was a lot of more deaths happening, up to around 4,000. So they'd always try to keep those numbers aware. And they also inform other locations that people pass through about the Minutemen, who is Border Patrol in Arizona, and how they keep an update to the situations happening. And not only do they provide this information to the people that are crossing, but also those who are family waiting on a response. One thing that they do that is mentioned in David Bacon's article, The Sadness of the Border Wall, Border Angels is at Friendship Park and holds events there. And when people meet each other at the borderline, they're there on both sides, especially families who are here on the U.S. side don't have papers. Another thing that Border Angels does that's mentioned in the aforementioned source is that they also receive letters from families who help let families be aware of what's happened to certain situations. In most cases, they're kids that have failed to cross or risked and lost their life. And besides information and support they provide, they also help those who are traveling through different means. The members of Border Angels place themselves to leave things that will help them across the desert. In one article by Isabel Fay entitled "The Home from Citizens Behind the Camera," they report that Border Angels places water stations across the desert. And when it comes to the times of cold, in Reconstructing Our Historical Memory by Susan Obeller, it mentions that they also provide they leave behind clothing, especially near the winter time. Regardless of the situation, Border Angels does what they can to help along the path. Overall, Border Angels does take time to make sure that those who are trying to cross the border are as safe as they can be, as well as keeping families informed. Their mission is in order to lower the death rates, have helped in both of those aspects. It's efforts like these to help give nonprofits the view that they'll do anything to help those in need.